Gone were the days when mobile money was the easiest, fastest, and the sweetest way of sending money, receiving, and making withdrawal. But now, I think things are changing. If you are new to this channel,
subscribe and press the bell button.
Quite recently, MTN Ghana has introduced a system where you need your ID card in order to make withdrawals. And I think from my perspective, I think this is a good step. However, for every new system, there's always a challenge. So we are listing out these challenges not to discourage MTN Ghana, however, to provide solution or for them to look into it in order to come up with solutions. This system is a system that has been implemented, by MTN Ghana. They generated it and they are implementing it. However, because they are the biggest mobile money system in Ghana, I think the other networks are just waiting to assess how it goes. If it goes suitably, then they follow suit. That is just my perspective. But let's go into detail. When you look at this, this system, I think it's a good thing that MTN Ghana has done, because from my view, MTN Ghana has been doing very well in terms of, alerting people of, reminding people of fraudsters, and they shouldn't give out your PIN number every time you make a call. They give you this reminder. I think they are taking things, their customers, grievances into consideration. However, for every system, there is a challenge, and there are challenges. However, we are not saying these challenges to discourage or to criticize them, but for them to look forward to finding better ways or seeing ways of strengthening this current system they are implementing. It's a good idea though. I don't know your intent, or I don't know their intent, but if their intent was to keep fraud, I disagree. However, if their intent was to at least find out who did or who undertook a transaction, that I agree with you, because providing an ID will help identify a person who was last withdrew money from or withdrew some money from an account, and when you go to their office, this will help them to trace. If you say that just to identify someone who has done undertake a transaction, I agree with you. But if you say you are doing this to keep fraud or to prevent fraud, I think much effort needs to be exerted in this. Again, when I heard about the use of ID during withdrawal, I thought it demands an original ID. The ID that you use to register the Momo, that should be the same ID that you use to make withdrawal. But I said no, any ID could do. So in that aspect, this system cannot prevent fraud, because if a fraudster can just use a different ID or someone else's ID and make withdrawal from your money, in that case it is lagging. However, if this system demanded that one has to use the original ID, then in that case there will be much strength in the system. However, there will be a challenge of inconvenience to customers. Again, they should have been clear that this system only works when one is withdrawing money from his account. However, if one is sending money from one account to another, this system does not work. So if this system does not work in that perspective, then I think that fraudsters still have a loophole over there, because if they manage to get your PIN, they can still withdraw your money irrespective. So this system is lagging in that aspect. And then we've also had the the information that some mobile money vendors, they use their ID cards or their own personal ID cards to make withdrawal for people who do not present ID cards when they come to make withdrawal. I think I think that's a loophole in that, because of the initial statement I said, when you could have any ID and make withdrawal, this is what brought to this, that vendors could use any ID or their own ID to do that. And if this happens, that is lagging, you understand? So if this happens, life becomes easy, because the vendors will be using their ID, but it's the most dangerous thing they will ever do. Why? Because if you use your personal ID to make withdrawal for somebody you do not know, you understand? When they go away with the money, and then the original owner of the account goes to lay complaint at the office, and then they hold you, the vendor, as the one who make withdrawal, because it is your ID they could trace, and really you did not actually withdraw the money, you are going to face the consequences. You are going to face the legal consequences of this entire issue. So the most dangerous aspect of it here is giving out your ID or using your ID to make withdrawal. Again, this is a warning to the general public, because right now someone do not actually have to steal your ID. When they take picture of your ID, or they found your ID somewhere, you are in trouble. You should just go and make a complaint at the police, to the police, you understand? If you don't make this complaint to the police and then these people grab your ID, they'll be using the ID to commit a lot of atrocities, and then in the future, near future, you will be the one to face the consequences in the court of law. So I think audience and the general public need to, hide their ID, need to find ways of protecting their ID from the hands of these bad people, from the hands of these fraudsters. So in conclusion, I personally agree with what Mr. PK Sapon said, that they have to strengthen the system or they should do away with it. However, come in a different way of curbing the issue. I personally agree with that. I do not have any political affiliation with him. I do not know him anywhere. I've never seen him before. But just reading it, I just concluded that is a good idea. If you coming out with a system, come out with a system that is very strong, that is, it covers a lot of scope. It's not just withdrawal. It should cover sending, receiving money, and then it should cover and then protect your customers. Also ensure convenience. That's what I mean. It should come out with a system that protects customers at the same time there is convenience. So if this is implemented, or a new method is looked out for and brought to the public, which is suitable for them, I think there would not be much negative reaction towards it. So I think the MTN Ghana is doing well in responding and then reacting to customers complain. However, they need to come out with a better system. This system is not really effective. They need to man up. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Subscribe and press the bell button.